Now, Chapter 6, Democratic Rights. We have discussed in the entire text, like from democratic government, then we have discussed what are the dreams or what do you expect from the democratic governments or why we need a democratic government, designing of the constitution, knowing about the election procedure, and finally the three main organs of the government we have discussed in the past 5 chapters. In this chapter, we will be discussing about the importance of the rights, how is life without rights, why do we need rights, what are our rights, who protects or who guards our rights. These are detailedly discussed in this chapter. Now, let us now find out an example how a life will be without rights. Life without rights. Let us see an example here which happened after 9/11 attacks in US in 2001. It was a prison which was set up by the US Navy, Guantanamo Bay. This Guantanamo Bay is a US detention center where all over the world nearly 600 prisoners are being imprisoned here, which is located very close to the Cuban islands, Cuba region, and here the authority is exercised by the US authorities. The Guantanamo Bay is a place where the severe atrocities have happened. The US forces have picked up the people from various corners of the world and pressurized them to know what is a mastermind behind the 9/11 attacks. And in this process, to know about the facts from them, the US authorities have not even followed the international agreements which has to be met even with the war refugees. The war criminals also cannot be tortured like this. This came to light when Anna's father, Jamil El Bana, has been missing and they don't know where he was kept, where did he go, when he will come. They never know what happened to him. Is he alive or dead? It's a very pathetic situation. And moving on to understand here, the family members of Jamil El Bana, it's not only Jamil El Bana's story. We are discussing about the condition which happened for all the 600 prisoners who are being imprisoned in the US detention which was set up in the Guantanamo Bay, and they had seen a condition where the basic rights are also not being validated. The basic requirements are not fulfilled for them. Looking at the conditions, the prisoners started to protest. They went on hunger strikes for many days, but no one cared about them. No one bothered about them. Only through the news channels, the family members of Jamil El Bana and the other members came to know, as Annas came to know, that her father has been imprisoned at a place called Guantanamo Bay, and there any media people, any lawyers, any government officials other than the US Navy officials are not allowed here. And the Amnesty International has brought to light how the people are suffering in the Guantanamo Bay, the US detention, how they are being tortured, and when the prisoners went on to the hunger strike, how passively the officials reacted without responding for them, without giving the basic requirements for them, and they did not even follow the international treaties which are there for the prisoners or the war refugees, war prisoners. Nothing has been followed. With the Amnesty International bringing the issue into light, the UN has set up a special body to inquire whether this happened or not. This happened, it's a true, it happened. But the UN also could not do anything. UN asked the US government to set or shut down the detention center and release all the prisoners free. Even some of the prisoners who are declared free officially are not left out. So the situation of the life becomes very difficult even to take breath when there are no rights. This is a true example for that. What is a mistake done by these 600 people who are happily living with their families in various corners of the world? If a government has doubt on anyone, they have to arrest them, they have to produce them in front of any magistrate, and they have to bring it to the notice of the public that so and so punishment has been given for so and so action done by the person. Here there are no trials, no magistrate, no laws has been followed. Everything has been restricted and life becomes miserable. We don't know whether he will be alive or dead. Now, let us now discuss about the other incident. Till now we have discussed about the Guantanamo Bay incident which happened. Let us take that it's an exception where one country's rights are being denied by the other country. Even UN requested, US did not accept. Now moving on to understand the rights or no rights for the people in their own country. Where? Example, Saudi Arabia, ruled by a king. The king comes to power on the hereditary basis. The family rules, the royal family rules. One generation passes, the father passes away, automatically the son comes into the throne, comes into the power. So there is no power for the people, the public, to do in making a king. King doesn't need people's support at any point of time. King comes to power on the hereditary basis. People are forced to accept the change of the power. Second, appointed by the king. The council of ministers, the legislative members, the judiciary members, everybody whom the king feels he is fit and capable will be appointed. So there is no choice or there is no criteria to say other than the king that this person is fit and fine and he can do suitable job. Whomever the king feels that is good can be appointed. There is no democratic setup there. It is truly on the decision of the king. Third one, the media or the press cannot report whatever that is happening in the ground reality. If there is any atrocity that is happening in any one of the officials' home, that cannot be reported. If any other issue that is happening, that cannot be reported. It has to get the consent or the approval of the king. Anything or any issue reported against the king cannot be telecasted. So there is a severe restriction and no freedom of press or media in Saudi Arabia. The other point, the people cannot form political organizations or political parties. They are not given any rights to have political parties or political organizations or any associations. Other than Muslims, there is no official religion there. You are free to follow any religion. Other than the Muslims can follow any religion, not in public, only in private. On the road, you are a Muslim. Other than in your house, you can follow whatever religion you want to follow. But the official religion of the kingdom is Islam. All have to abide to the Islam rules and regulations. The last but not the least, a serious point, restrictions against women. There is a severe restriction against women. Women are not allowed to walk freely on the road. Women are not even justified equal with men. The testimony of a man is equal to two women's testimony. Means if any proof or anything has to be given, one man gives something that is equal to the testimony of two women. Means one man is equal to two women. See how much disparity is there. And women are treated just like slaves. They don't have any equality. There is no mutual respect, mutual concern. They don't have equal rights to vote also. This is with the citizens of Saudi Arabia. The king is a whole and sole supreme. Appointments are made whom the king feels fit, will place them in legislature, executive and judiciary posts. No freedom of press or media. Press cannot report anything or media cannot report anything. Whatever they observe, it is strictly restricted. Anything or any words or any actions against the king will be viewed seriously. People cannot form any political parties or political associations. Freedom of religion is not open. Yes, the non-Muslims can practice their religions privately, not in public. And women are strictly restricted, and there is no freedom for women at all. And looking in the view of the women, it is really a pitiful condition for women in Saudi Arabia. This is a fact that these all are happening in the present day, in the present 21st century, when we declare that women emancipation, women empowerment is must and mandatory now in many countries in the world, where we have the right to speak, right to equality, right to freedom, where you claim that you can question the authority of the government. Here, nothing. You don't have right to talk only. You cannot talk on the road. You cannot form any association. Media cannot publicly telecast your interview which you are questioning the authorities of the king. King, monarchic type of government is in existence. As an example, Saudi Arabia. Now let us look at one more incident where the ethnic massacre has happened. It is at Kosovo, which was earlier a part of Yugoslavia before it got split. This was a real incident which happened. In Yugoslavia, the population of Yugoslavia in Kosovo was like this. The Albanians are overwhelmingly present, but they are in minority, where the Serbians are in majority in the Kosovo region of Yugoslavia. Yes, as in India we have Hindus in majority, the other Islam, Sikhism, Christianity all are in minority. Milosevic came to power, who was hailing from the Serbian family and who after he became victorious through the democratic process of elections, he wanted to set a dominant standard. He wanted to dominate the Serbians to be the dominant people, and he wanted the Albanians either to run away from the country or to agree the importance and the majority of Serbians. So in order to make them to agree, he used military methods, tortured the people like anything. Let us look at one of the incidences which happened, that is a 74-year-old Batisha Hoxha was sitting with her husband, who is 77-year-old person, whose name is Aizet. Batisha and Aizet were sitting close to a stove to warm up themselves, to keep themselves warm. We can understand the situation because they are aged people. They want to save themselves from the coldness or the winter cold, so they are staying near the stove to warm themselves. Suddenly, a sound came. Bombs were being dropped in the streets of Kosovo. These people understood that the Serbian army has entered the streets or their city, but could not realize in the fraction of time 5 to 6 soldiers have broken the door, blasted the door, entered into the house, shouting in front of Batisha, "Where are your children? Where are your children?" Batisha was shocked looking at them, and in that shock, by the time she realized and come out from that shock, she is able to see her husband laying down and blood oozing out. 3 bullets were shot to Aizet, and she could observe that Aizet is losing his life. in front of her. How pathetic the situation is. How horrible, how pitiful the condition of that lady. And she was dragged out of the house and thrown onto the streets. And in front of her, the house was being blasted. The house was being set to burn. The house door was broken. She was in the shock. They came inside shouting, "Where are your children? Where are your children?" They killed the husband in front of her own eyes, pushed her outside, burned the house. She was standing in the street in the rain and she was watching. Except her clothes, she doesn't have anything. These soldiers, it is a military action. The government is sponsoring this one. The elected leader of the country did this ethnic massacre. The reports of thousands of the Albanians were really pitiful. We cannot even read the articles about them, how they were being tortured. The poor lady was losing her husband, losing her all possessions, nothing except the dress what she is putting on. What should she do now? How many days will she survive? What right does the government have to kill the husband, to enter into the house and to destroy the house? The appeal was made to the international organizations. The international organizations have stepped in. Investigation was started. It was proved that Milosevic has done international crimes against humanity. So he was being thrown away from power. He lost the power. He was being arrested by the International Court of Justice, brought under trial against the crimes which he done against the humanity. We have discussed the incident which happened in the Guantanamo Bay, where the 600 prisoners are being tortured for no reason. They don't know for what they are arrested. They don't know where they are kept. They don't know for what reason they are being tortured. They are not allowed to contact their family members. There is no information where these people are kept. Because of the efforts made by the Amnesty International, the UN organization stepped in, investigation started. Then they came to know that US has set up a detention center near Cuba known as the Guantanamo Bay. Even the appeal made by the UN was turned off by the US. We have seen Saudi Arabia, where the people are entitled to just follow what the king dictates. It is an old monarchic style of ruling. King will come to power on the hereditary basis, appoints whomever he wants, no freedom of press, no religious freedom, and you cannot form any political associations. Women are viewed seriously, very low in the society. We have seen the ethnic massacre which happened with the Kosovo Albanians. We have seen one example also. So life without rights. These are the perfect examples. The democratic rights, rights in democracy. Why do we actually need rights? We have seen the examples which are the Guantanamo Bay, where the people all over the world were shocked to know the facts. People were taken to a particular place which is very far from the people where they can reach it. It is in the coastal regions of near Cuba, and where US has kept a special detention there, where the press, media or anyone is not supposed to come, and the people were tortured like anything. The other example where we have seen the citizens in Saudi Arabia, where in Saudi Arabia the people could not find the actual basic rights of equality at all. Women are not at all respected equally with men. A man's testimony is 2 times that of a woman. Means 2 women, whatever they say is equal to 1 man, whatever he says. and we also have seen the ethnic massacre which happened in Kosovo, where the Serbian group has targeted the other Albanians and killed them literally. The old aged people were also not left out. When it comes to these kind of situations, we all need to remember that when we want someone to behave in a proper manner, we also should behave in that proper manner. There should be an equal and mutual concern between each other. Then only we can say there is a systematic government in place. Whatever you want, you do. Whatever you like, you do. And you expect the others to behave very properly, very well mannered, which is not at all justified. We have seen the instances where the minimum basic things were also not followed, like in the Guantanamo Bay, where no one was taken to any trial or any magistrate, which was a natural right for them, that they can appeal, and they even don't know what was the mistake that they have done. So these kind of things put us to a larger question mark. Where are we? That is the reason why in democracy we need a systematic system or a systematic procedure to be followed. Whoever has been arrested should be produced in front of a magistrate within 24 hours. This assurance or this guarantee given to any citizen is known as rights. If this assurance or this guarantee is not given to any citizen, then that society is not a proper managed society. There is some equality or there is some serious problem in the society. Let us now know what is a right. What is a right? A right is an assured thing which every individual has with him. The guarantee assured for him. That is called a right. Now, what are rights in a broad described meaning in the present day society? Rights. Rights are the natural claims what a fellow individual makes against the other fellow individual. When I say I have right to speak, I am claiming that I have right to speak equally with that of the others also, that they also have the right to speak. When I say I have right to speak, it doesn't mean only I have right to speak. Every individual has right to speak, irrespective of his whether he is rich or poor, whether he belongs to high caste or lower caste, whether he belongs to the same religion or the other religion, whether he knows Hindi or he doesn't know Hindi. Irrelevant to all the situations, whoever is a citizen of India has a right to speak, which is equally applicable to all of them. That is the claim. Rights are the claims which are made by the individuals or the other individuals, and when the other individuals do accept that one. When the other individuals do accept means, why do we need rights actually? We need rights to live happily. We want to live happy. At the same time, the others also should live happily. So, what you are claiming as a right is a right for others also. If you want to live happily, the others also want to live happily. And when you are claiming a right, that should not be with fear, and that should not be with the degradation of the other individuals. When we have seen the Serbians in Kosovo, they started to make the Albanians get feared, scared, kill the people, torture the people. They started to degrade them. This degradation should not happen. There should be mutual respect and concern. Do not harm or hurt others. If you harm and hurt others, then there are no rights. How you are harming and hurting the others, in the similar way the others also can harm and hurt you. So when you don't harm and hurt others, others will not harm and hurt us. So there should be mutual understanding between the two groups, then this should be reasonable. When we move back to the same example which happened in Kosovo, where there was no reason why the Serbians started to target the Albanians who are in minority. There is no reasonable claim at all. There is no reasonable justification given to that. Only as they are in majority, they just want to make the Serbians to prove that they are majority people, and the Albanians have to follow and listen to the diktat what they want to make. So there is no natural justification. There should be some reasonable claim. When you are claiming your right, that should be justified with a reason. And at the same time, the claiming or the reason what you are using to justify yourself should be recognized by the society. The society recognizes your rights because everyone in the society recognizes your rights. When the society is not recognizing your right, then you doesn't have your right at all. For example, in the Guantanamo Bay, the prisoners have the right to be brought to the prosecution and to be brought in front of a magistrate so that he can appeal or he can put forth his views. Where the government did not accept such kind of rights. When that kind of government or the society doesn't accept your rights, which are reasonable and accepted by the society, then we call it as violation of the laws or infringed. The violation of the laws happen when the mutual respect is not present. So any rights, whatever you say that you have rights, these are the claims which you make over the fellow people, which are reasonable, which are justified, and which are recognized by the society. After getting recognition by the society, everybody has to accept that one. When will everybody accept that? People will accept only when we get the laws in place. So, the rights, when they get transformed into the laws, then they get the real force. I'll tell you one small example. Women rights. 200 years ago, when someone talks about women rights or women given equal right to vote, people used to look at them very strangely. People used to find that he is a rare species who is found here, who should not be belonging here. Today, the same women rights, when they were not given in Saudi Arabia, we feel that country is strange. So the rights which are getting transformed into the laws will get the real force. And once the laws are not followed, they are liable for punishment, and we can question them. Why are my laws being violated? Why are my rights not being protected by the government, by the concerned authorities? So rights are the reasonable claims which you make on your fellow beings, which are recognized by the society and which are also endorsed by the laws or by the constitution of the region. So in this, we can simply note down like the claims which are reasonable and recognized by society and got the constitutional approval, which are made only to make people to live happy. That is the reason why, or the basic purpose of having rights is to make the society be happy, make the people to live happy. Why do we need rights in a democracy? We have seen examples where the basic rights are being violated, where there is no democracy. Guantanamo Bay is an example. Citizenship rights, no equality for women in Saudi Arabia. Kosovo, where the majority has taken out the minority. Now, why is it compulsory that we should have rights in democracy? The answer is straight and clear. Two basic features of democracy: elections, political parties. The people should compulsorily have the right to vote. If they have the right to vote, they can elect the party. So people should also have the right to form the political organizations. These political organizations will give an alternative for the people to choose. If these two are not there, there is no democracy. And as we go on further in deep to understand democracy, the rights of the minorities have to be protected. As we have seen an example in the Kosovo, where the majority started to curb the minority rights. In order to protect the minorities against the majority, we need certain rights in place. We need certain amount of guarantees. So rights are the guarantees against any wrong things which happen, to stop the wrong things that happen. Rights assures that these things do not happen. These things should not happen because it is against the democratic spirit of the country. And moving on, in all the democratic countries, we find the political rights or all the basic rights are above the government. Why? Government sometimes may not protect the rights of certain groups. When government does not protect the rights of certain groups, that groups may fall in danger. That is the reason why government may sometimes support, may not support sometimes. In order to make government to be stable, the fundamental rights or the basic rights are always placed above the powers of the government, where even the government cannot touch them. Government cannot reach them. Government should not infiltrate in them. Government should make sure that these rights are not violated. In all the democratic countries, we find constitution recognizing the basic rights as the core or the guiding principles of the constitution, where the government cannot modify them, change them or alter them. Government should ensure that all the citizens are given the fundamental rights. No one is stopping them in acquiring their fundamental rights. If anyone is not entitled to get the fundamental rights, there is some serious problem which the government has to check and stop it. So we need rights actually in democracy. In order to have true spirit of democracy, we should have elections where the people should have the right to vote. People should have the right to form political organizations, political parties, should have the right to campaign, should have the right to equality, to respect the other political parties also to contest in the systematic way. We should respect mutually each other. We should respect mutually all the other communities of people, whether you may be in majority group or in the minority group. Whatever it is, we all are the citizens of the country and we follow one system of government and we all have rights. That rights are the assurances or the guarantees which are given against any injustice or against any wrong things that should not happen. In order to stop the wrong things, we need rights for us. And rights are always above than the government. Governments may tend to change the rights, may tend to take sometimes certain turns like supporting the other group or supporting the rival group. But in the actual situation, the rights are above the government. Government is entrusted with the responsibility to protect the rights of the people. So it cannot go against the interests of the people. That is why in any democratic country, we have rights placed in the constitution and little bit above the powers of the government. The government cannot change or modify or alter the rights of the citizens, which are also known as basic rights or fundamental rights. That is the reason why we need rights in democracy. Rights in the Indian Constitution. As we mentioned till now, all the fundamental rights are placed in the Constitution and above the powers of the government. Similarly, in the Indian Constitution also, the rights are inscribed in the Constitution and they are given the status of fundamental rights. We have total 6 fundamental rights. What are they? Let us see now. First, the right to equality. Any kind of discrimination, irrespective of anything, there should not be any ill treatment and equal respect and mutual concern. About the right to equality, right to freedom. No one should restrain or restrict you on any manner is the right to freedom. Right to freedom of religion. India, when India got its independence, India has suffered a severe pain of partition on the basis of religion. So the framers of the constitution made sure that religion should not be a dividing factor in the coming generations for the Indians. So they have assured freedom of religion, right against exploitation. Any form or any kind or any manner of exploitation has been prohibited under this right against exploitation. Cultural and the educational rights. You may belong to any culture. You have the right to freedom to follow your own culture and to learn your own educational scriptures, language, or whatever is concerned with culture and education. And right to constitutional remedies. The above 5 rights, any of the right is been violated, you can use the 6th right and enforce or make the government to respond and react and make sure that your rights are being given as privileges to you. No one can curb your rights. This is a protecting shield of all the other 5 fundamental rights. Let us now learn in detail about each fundamental right. Rights in the Constitution. Well, let us move on to the first fundamental right, that is right to equality. This is the first fundamental right what is being guaranteed in the Indian Constitution. What is this right to equality? Why do we need this right to equality? If you remember our past experiences with the Britishers, where the Indians are not treated equally or in par with the Britishers, so we faced many problems. We were discriminated, we were ill-treated, we were not respected. So the framers of the Constitution made it very clear and mandatory that every individual in our country, every citizen of our country should be entitled to get the right to freedom. What is this right to freedom? But before going to right to freedom, there should be equality between all of us. We have to respect others equally with mutual respect and concern. So the first place is given to right to equality and not to right to freedom. The right to equality has certain grounds from the past experiences drawn from Indian background or the Indian history, where we have seen the Indian society labeling the people on the names of the caste or discriminating the people, not to allowing the people to have participation in the public, not to allowing the people to enter into the public places. So all these have to be vanished. In order to erase all this in the future generations of the Indian society, we need this right to equality as a basic fundamental right. Let us now find out each and every clause in detail about the right to equality. All the individuals, all the citizens of our country will be treated equally in the same manner. What is the meaning of the word equally in the same manner? A right example for this. Few years ago, the former Prime Minister of India was getting in allegations that he was involved in a scam. When he was involved in the scam, he was prosecuted by the court of law. He went to the court, filed the papers, attended the court sermons, responded for the court's judgments, and later the court has declared him that he was not guilty. But how a common individual, a common citizen, a common man responds to the court in the similar way, the former Prime Minister, there is no special privilege given. He attended the court, he submitted the papers, he responded to the summons, and he attended every session of the court. And finally, this brings to us the knowledge that even a common man or a senior most politician, whom whatever position he may be have held or holding now, it is a president, prime minister, vice president, chief minister, whatever it is, but he is liable to get punished under the court of law if he is proven that he has done any mistake. Now the next, No discrimination is allowed. Do not discriminate people on the basis of race, caste, color, sex, creed, region, religion, on any manner. We are not supposed to discriminate people. They all are our fellow Indians. We have to respect each other. No restrictions in public places. We generally get a doubt. Is it necessary that we should have this also in the right to equality clauses? Yes. In the ancient societies of our country, there are certain caste people who, on the basis of their births, are being labeled with certain castes, and these people are not allowed to mingle with the other caste people, and there is a serious restriction on these people, stopping them from entering into the public temples, public tanks, usage of the water, having common dining with the other caste people. These all restrictions were the past experiences of the Indian society. So in order to erase all this, we need no restrictions also should be in the clauses of the right to equality. Employment. When you are applying for any employment opportunity, you are free to apply for any opportunity which you are fit educationally. There should not be any discrimination by the government while you are applying. You have the right to apply for any position all over India if you are educationally qualified for that particular post. There should not be any restriction that this should be applied only for the Hindu caste people, this should be applied only for the Christians. No. You are free to get entitled to apply for the job. You have the right to do job anywhere in any corner of the country, provided you have the required qualifications for that particular job. Now, no discrimination or non-discrimination should be the serious motto of equality. We have seen situations when there was a severe discrimination in the past centuries. So the framers of the constitution want to make sure the future generation people should realize that this is a wrong. It is a crime against humanity. Why? A few caste people, as I mentioned earlier, were not allowed to enter into the temples. By chance or by mistake, if he enters a temple, they used to punish him severely. No common dining with the other caste people, even in the public ceremonies. So these all discriminations have also to be stopped. So they have brought untouchability in the crimes list. So untouchability is a punishable offense. If we follow untouchability, it is a punishable offense according to the Constitution of India, especially in the fundamental rights. So the right to equality ensures that every individual has equal respect and equal concern. Same for all. You may be rich, poor, higher or lower society member. You may be the President of India. You may be a common man of India. Whomever you are, the rights of equality is applicable equally for you and the other person. Equally for all the Indians. And if anyone violates them, they are liable for punishment. Like how untouchability is a punishable offense according to the same law. And this law is placed in the top list of the fundamental rights. Right to freedom. This is the second fundamental right what we are going to discuss now, which are in the Constitution of India. The right to freedom gives us the freedom to express your feelings. You can give a speech. You have the right to express your opinions. You have the right to express your freedom. You have the right to give information on any particular topic. It is as simple as this. You may like the government policy. You can express your opinion that you like the government policy. You do not like the government policy. You do not like the government policy is an expression which you need to express. So you can be positive towards the government policy, you can be negative towards the government policy, you can be neutral towards the government policy. But you have the right to express your feelings, your opinions on any particular topic. It may be the government, it may be the policy, it may be against the customs, it may be against the religion. Any issue, whatever it is, you have the right to express your feelings against that. Then, assemble in a peaceful manner without giving any provoking statements. You can deliver a speech. You can have an assembly where the gathering of the people can happen, and you can conduct n number of assemblies. You can conduct n number of meetings, provided you do not provoke with your powerful speeches against the government. You are not entitled to rebel against the government. You have freedom to speak. You have freedom to give speeches. You may be a very good orator, but you cannot force the people or you cannot provoke the people to react against or to rebel against the government, where that is a serious restriction. Your right to freedom is only to express your feelings. You cannot use those feelings or use your message to provoke the people to comment or to react against the government. And associations and unions, you can form any association. Trade union associations were initially restricted, where the worker union associations were initially restricted when the factories and the unions were coming in. So you did not restrict. No one can restrict your unions. No one can restrict you forming an associations. You can form a political association. You can form a non-governmental organization. You can form a non-political association, non-profit associations, whatever may be the association, whatever may be your motto, without causing any harm to others. You can form an association and you can have your own union. Move freely. You have the freedom to move freely in any corner of the country, except if it is restricted through the military laws and rules. Other than that, you can move anywhere in the country according to the free of your choice. You have the right to wander in every corner of the country, provided you do not cause any harm to others. Reside. You have the choice to reside in any corner of our country. If you move in search of any job, got a job there, got an opportunity there, you would like to construct a house there. Yes, you have 100% rights to construct house anywhere, wherever you wish to, which is giving a right for you to buy any house in our country. You can move freely. You can do job anywhere in the country. You can build your house anywhere in the country. You can marry anyone who is free without any compulsion against them. You have the freedom to marry anyone. Both are adults and mature. And any profession, you can do any profession. Why we need to mention about any profession separately? It is a way back history. Manu Dharma Shastra, the 1st or the 2nd century AD, Manu described the people into 4 major categories: Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Sudras. This is also known as fourfold caste system. The Brahmanas are entitled to do prayers and the holy rituals. The Kshatriyas are empowered to rule the kingdoms, to govern the people. The Vaishyas to do business. The Sudras to do all the other activities. These Rudras are also known as lower strata people. So the Brahmanas related to prayers and the holy rituals. The Kshatriyas, the governing bodies. The rulers, the kings, the nobles. The Vaishyas, the businessmen, those who do business. So this was in the 1st and the 2nd century AD, which got its roots deepen and deepen as the centuries passed. So now also we have the same 4 castes dominating the entire society. As the time passed on now, the constitution, when the framers are making the constitution, they decided that the age-old custom has to be wiped off. So in order to wipe off this one and to bar the people from doing any other occupation of their choice, of what they are interested, so they want to correct the mistakes in the society. So they brought this freedom here. any profession. You may be born in a Kshatriya, but if you are interested to do business, you can do business. You may be a Brahmin, you are not interested to do prayers, you are interested to do some service to society, yes, you are eligible. You may be born in a Sudra, you are interested to do prayers, yes, you can do. So like this, they want the changes according to the interests of the people, not on the basis of the birth. There should be no labels on the basis of the birth. That was the prime motto of the makers of the constitution. So they clearly stated that any profession can be followed with their interest. Now all the freedoms, what are we just discussed? Speech, expression, assembling in a peaceful manner. When you are assembling in a peaceful manner, your members who are joining you in the assembly should not carry any weapons. If they carry any weapons, again it turns into an unpeaceful one where there is a severe restriction on that. An assembly in a peaceful manner is permitted without any weapons. Associations and unions. You can form associations and unions, but do not provoke the people with your unions and associations against the government. Don't run anti-government movements. Then you are liable for punishment. Move freely. Don't involve in any anti-social element activities when you are permitted to move freely. Reside anywhere. Reside anywhere according to your choice, but don't get involved in the anti-social element works. Any profession with your passion, you can do any profession. These all freedoms are not bounding on the other public. You should not create any public nuisance. If you are entitling or if you are doing any public nuisance, there can be restrictions on your fundamental rights. On the larger interest of the society, the government also can impose certain restrictions on the right to freedom. And no to the rebels against the government. Using your freedom, you cannot make the public to rebel against the government. This freedom is completely under scrutiny. The other provisions of the freedom, right to freedom. Personal liberty has become a top priority in the Indian Constitution. That is the reason why there are severe restrictions even for the police department, like arrested. If anyone is arresting you, who arrests us? The police department arrests us. If they arrest us, you should be informed for what you are being arrested. The information has to be given for you. For what purpose, for what allegations you are being charged against you, and why are they putting you behind the bars, for what is the reason for that. Simply as it is shown in the many movies, whomever they want, they cannot be put behind the bars. There should be a clear specification of the reason for what is this action being taken. And the second provision, within 24 hours, you have to be submitted to the nearest magistrate, whoever is present at that time, whether in the court or at the magistrate's house, to inform to the court that we have arrested so and so person on the particular grounds and he is brought to justice. Without this procedure, no one can be kept behind the bars for more than 24 hours. And within these 24 hours, the person who is being brought under detention can be given the right to consult lawyer. He will have 110% the rights to consult lawyers or engage any lawyer. No one should arrest you. If they are arresting you, they should mention you the reason for what they are arresting you. You have 24 hours of time. Within 24 hours of time, they have to take you and submit you to the nearest court or the magistrate, and you in the meanwhile can arrange your own lawyer or engage with a lawyer or ask the court to put a lawyer for you. Why they have made it mandatory this? Because if you look at the incidents which happened in the Guantanamo Bay and the Kosovo, where the basic personal liberties of the citizens of the countries are violated. In the Guantanamo Bay, there was no trial, no submission near the magistrate, no reason for what they have arrested them. These all are violated. Even in Kosovo, there are no personal liberties. They have arrested with no reason, no trial, no justice. So to make sure that in our country this doesn't happen, the personal liberty has been placed above the government policies in the list of the fundamental rights, where in these fundamental rights you have the right to access them. If any of the officials try to violate them, you can give a written complaint against them and make them to enforce your rights for you. That's why the fundamental rights have a unique place in the society and also in the constitution. The democratic rights, the third important right what we have is the right against exploitation. What is the meaning of right against exploitation? When it is mentioned in the constitution, we have right to freedom, we have right to equality. Then why is it necessary to mention that right against exploitation has to be clearly specified? In order to make sure and to safeguard the weaker section people, and nobody else, whoever is strong, can pressurize them and use them as per their weaknesses. So the weaker sections and the weaker communities have to be protected. For that, the constitution has clearly specified what is exploitation, and it has prohibited three different kinds of any manner of exploiting them in the three different types is illegal. So three different ways how the humans are being exploited. First, we have traffic. Traffic, generally we feel crowd. Yes. Here, traffic stands for human trafficking. Any manner of human trafficking is prohibited as per the constitutional rules. What is human trafficking? The people are sold as that of commodities, as that of any items which are sold in the market. How do we buy onions, potatoes, carrots? In the similar way, people are also sold in the same manner. 100 people, 200 people are sold like this. This way of selling people or human mankind is known as traffic. Any manner of this is prohibited. Do we really find this kind of human trafficking happening? Yes. In our country also we have human trafficking happening, especially women. Women are kidnapped from their home regions or used, or they are motivated, or they are said some other stories that we will provide you jobs and all. We have many cheaters in the society who actually cheat the young girls and show them many dreams and bring them to the cities and sell them for some immoral purposes. Most of the cases end up by joining in the prostitute homes. So the girls or the women, whoever has been sold or been taken to the prostitution houses forcefully, are known as immoral means. That is what in the constitution it is clearly mentioned. Human trafficking is an illegal thing, and this kind of illegal activities are strictly prohibited according to the constitution of our country. Next, moving on to understand what is beggar. Generally we feel beggar means those who are begging, but here the meaning doesn't appear or apply for this case. The beggar stands for anyone who is forced to render his services. The laborer has to work for the master at very less cost or nominal charges or no charge at all. Here in beggary we have two people, the slave or a master. Now we don't have slaves, so we call them as labor. The laborer has to work for his master at very less cost or the nominal cost and a very long period of time. If it continues for the lifetime, this is called bonded labor. It gets turned into bonded labor. So any manner, either in the beggar or in the form of the bonded labor, is strictly prohibited according to our constitution under the fundamental rights of right against exploitation. In that, first is traffic, second is beggar, and the third category is child labor. Any child who is having less than 14 years of age should not be employed. In any manner of work. It may be in the factories, it may be in the industries, it may be in any work. The children are to go to school to build up their body properly, because that is the right time when the body gets matured and they start to grow up physically. And biologically also, we need to have many changes which are happening in the body. So at that point of time, if there is constant pressure on them and they are exploited with heavy physical works, the body may not develop to the full extent of his age, and this may result in many adverse effects. So that is the reason why the constitution strictly stated the three different forms of exploitation as illegal, and anyone whoever tries to implement this one are liable for legal punishment. First, the traffic, the crowd, human trafficking. India also has large number of people in the human trafficking getting missed. So the law has to be made very strictly implemented. And then we have beggar, the slavery. The labor has to work for his master at very less cost, just like a bonded labor. The child labor, less than 14 years of age, should not be employed in any kind of hazardous works, in any factories or any industries or in any railway network or any other work, because that really restricts the growth of the child. So these three kinds of exploitations are going to harm the future of the country. That's the reason why the framers of the constitution clearly kept in their mind and brought it into the place and placed the laws above the government's rights. So we have the fundamental rights in which these three forms of exploitation of the citizens of the country is strictly banned, and whoever tries to do these kind of things can be liable for legal punishments. Now, the fourth fundamental right, right to the freedom of religion. When we mentioned about the right to freedom, we have given the choice to do whatever you want. In the previous fundamental right, we already discussed what are the restrictions, what are the boundaries that bound an individual other than to insult or hurt or harm the other's freedoms. Like for example, if you want to do something which you like, it should not be harming or hurting others' feelings. Then you are having right to freedom. If you hurt or create nuisance for the others because of your right to freedom, then there can be a severe restriction against that. Now moving ahead from then, that religion is an important factor in everyone's life as an Indian. We all believe or practice one or the other religions. India is a land of different kinds of religions, birthplace. The land where nearly 6 religions have taken their first step, starting with Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, so they go on. And Hinduism, we don't know from how many thousands of years we are following. Now moving on to understand, other than Hindus, we have good number of Muslims, we have good number of Christian people, we have Sikh followers, then we have Zoroastrians, Jainism people, Buddhism people, Parsi community people. These all are the different kinds of people or different religious practicing people living in our country. India became an independent country on 15th of August 1947. On that day itself, India got partition. Pakistan was created only and only on the basis of religion, Islam. The framers of the constitution, who at that time were present, have seen how people are divided on the basis of religion, how people were tortured when they have to cross from Pakistan to India and from India to Pakistan. Many Hindus were thrown out of Pakistan. Many Muslims were thrown out of India during the time of partition. Many of them lost their entire properties, family members, relatives, assets, everything. So in future, religion should not be the dividing factor to the people. There should not be any dividing factor between the Indians. With that foresightedness, the framers of the constitution clearly thought about this and gave a strong message to the future generations of the country by giving religious freedom as a fundamental right. What does the right state of being a freedom of religion means? It clearly states that India is a secular state. What is the meaning of the word secular state? A secular state is a country where there is no official religion. Generally, people get confused. Secular state. India is a country where we have 29 states. So we generally assume the word state to states. So about which state is he talking about? Is he talking about Jammu and Kashmir? Is he talking about Gujarat? Is he talking about Assam? Is he talking about Arunachal Pradesh? Or is he talking about any of the southern states? No. In civics, the term state means a nation, a territory which has a common language, which has a common national boundaries. So India doesn't have a common language, but still we have the national boundaries. Why I mentioned we don't have a common language? Because we have 22 languages recognized by the Constitution of India. Now moving on further, a secular state is a state which does not propagate, the government does not propagate any of the religion or the religious practices officially. You are free to follow any religion. Government does not favor any one individual or any one particular religion to be propagated, to be officially done, or to restrict someone doing something. You as a citizen can profess, can preach your religion. Whichever religion you are practicing, you can preach your religion. You have the freedom to preach your religion. At the second, you have the right to practice your religion. The customs, the traditions, whatever your religion propagates to you, you can follow them. The propagation, you can give the message to the others, or you can form your own communities, your same people who follow the same religion, communities also. When I mentioned about the profess or when I mentioned about the propagation, it doesn't mean that you compel the others to follow your religion. You force the other community people also to follow your rules and your regulations. No, there should not be any compulsion from any side, or there should not be any pressure from any corner to pressurize them to come towards this religion or to go from this religion to the other religion. And at the same time, there is a free to change your religion. If I am not justified, if I am not feeling well connected with my own religion and I feel some other religion is very interesting to me, I can definitely change my religion, but not because someone compels me to do that. I, with my own interest, if I want to change, then only I can change. If anyone tries to pressurize me to change my religion, then it is a severe crime because he is violating the basic rights of mine. Here we can have an example of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the father of the Indian Constitution, the chairman of the drafting committee, was basically belonging to a Hindu family who, after getting an age of nearly 60, he converted himself into Buddhism. He adopted Buddhism religion. There was no pressure on B.R. Ambedkar. So that kind of changes are entertained, but not with force or not with pressure. As an individual, you can preach, you can propagate, you can do a number of things which favors you to do in a religion, but you cannot compel others to come and join you. And as an authoritative body, the government does not entertain any one particular religion, any one particular religious practices. Like in a religion, if you have animal sacrifices, the government does not permit you to do the animal sacrifices. If in your religion, if you have anyone who is a widow has to be shaved off her hair, no, there is a severe restriction against that. Because we, on the name of the religion, has also faced many atrocities in the past. If you look at the history back, we have many things which we feel like they are inhuman in nature. So the framers of the Constitution has kept aside religion on one hand, the human attitude on the other hand. If you are killing any animal on the name of the God, you are giving the animal sacrifices. No. As you have the right to live, the same as the animals also have the right to live. When you are torturing any lady whose husband has been passed away, a widow, to shave her head and force her to put on the white dress or white clothes, no, we do not have any rights to interfere in her personal life. You cannot pressurize her to put what kind of dress she has to put on, what kind of things she has to do with her hair and all. So there is something called individual liberty, freedom. That individual freedom has certain boundaries, and no one can cross that boundaries and go beyond that and pressurize an individual to do something on the name of a religion. So the right to freedom of religion provides you authority to follow any religion which you wish to do. You can profess, propagate and also practice your religious customs, but not hurting or harming others. And the country will not have any official religion. The country will be named as a secular state, not like that of Pakistan or Saudi, where they have the state's official religion as Islam. So the right to freedom of religion provides you the freedom to follow any religion without hurting or without compelling others to join your religion. So with this, the right to freedom of religion has been set aside from the official works of the government, and human attitude has been brought up in place, where religion is something which is very personal when it comes to the individuals, and human values have been given top priority. The cultural and the educational rights. This is another important fundamental right. Why we say it's important? Because it got its place in the list of the 5 fundamental rights. The 5th fundamental right is giving right not only to the people who are in majority. Till now we have discussed rights like right to freedom, right to equality, cultural and the educational rights is a now important focus. Why? Because when we are talking about right to freedom, right to equality, right to religious freedom, right against exploitation, those all rights are mentioned for all the categories of the people. But in a democratic country, generally the majority will get the authority into their hands. Democracy is nothing but the rule of the majority. So majority obviously will try to dominate the minority. So in order to preserve and give equal status for the minority community people only, this right has been brought into place. When I say minority, you generally get a question like Muslims, Christians. No. Here minority means Hindus also can be minority in our country. Yes, it is a fact. Depending on the situation. When I talk about the minorities, that is a few number of people staying is called minority. It is not mentioned with religion, it is not mentioned with a culture, it is not mentioned with any particular language. For example, in a Christianity dominated state like Kerala, the Muslims may be very few. There they may be minority, or Hindus also can be very few. Or like where Hinduism is dominated in Uttar Pradesh, Christians may be few. There they can be called as minority. Or in the northern states, if you find any Malayali people staying there, like Keralites, they can be minority group there. In the Kerala region, if you find any North Indian people like Kashmiri people staying here, they can be minority here. So less number of people staying different from the other larger group staying there is called minority here. Now why I brought the meaning of the minority so clear and specific is, we generally misuse the word minority for Muslims and Christians. Yes, when we take on the basis of the religion, Hinduism is followed by nearly 80% of the people. So the rest of all the religions come under the minority only when we talk about the religion consensus. As we move on to understand the meaning of minority, for example, in Telugu states, if you have Tamil spoken people living here, they can be minority here. Now, the Tamil speaking people staying in Tamil Nadu will not be called as minority. They are termed as minority only in Andhra state. If Telugu speaking people are staying in Tamil Nadu, then the Telugu speaking people can be termed as minority in Tamil Nadu state. That is the reason why minority is being specified clearly. Now moving further, cultural and the educational rights. Whose culture has to be protected? Whose education has to be preserved? When the minority groups of people, as nowadays we are finding people migrating from one region to another region at a very rapid rate, very fast they are moving. So from villages they are rushing to the towns and cities and to the metropolitans. As we have different regional people staying together, we may have some group as larger group, with the other groups may come under the minority group. Hinduism is important, Christianity is important, following the Tamil culture is important, following the Malayalam culture still important. So every individual has a right to freedom. He can follow any religion, he can have right to follow any culture also. So how can he preserve his culture when a very few number of people are staying here? In Kerala we have the Onam festival celebrated on a very large scale. The custom which is followed for the Onam festival can also be followed by the people those who are staying far away from Kerala. These rights are called as cultural rights. Your right to preserve your culture wherever you are is known as cultural rights. In the similar way, you have your own literature, your own language. Keralites speak Malayalam. They may be staying in Kashmir. They have the right to establish their schools and administer them to their community people, so that the Malayalis who stay in Kashmir can learn Malayalam. Even in Andhra we have Tamil medium schools, where Andhra is a Telugu dominated state. Telugu speaking people are large in number. So Tamil people are minority here. In order to preserve their language, their culture, their customs, they have established their schools. These rights to establish their own regional language schools apart from their own dominant lands is the main criteria for the cultural and the educational rights. The minority means a section of people who are distinctive, who are different from the larger group who stay there. Maharashtra people, when we have Kannada's people staying in Maharashtra, they are in minority there. Maharashtra people staying in Karnataka are minority here. So it is vice versa. There is no guarantee, always the same community remains in minority. Next, moving on. On the basis of this, in India, no admissions can be denied stating that you do not belong to a Hindu, you do not belong to a Malayali, you do not belong to a Tamil, so this admission is denied for you. No, equal opportunity is provided for everyone. You can compete for that. If the required qualifications, if you possess, definitely you are eligible to acquire that job or that seat of admission. That kind of arrangements are made, and you have the right to establish your own educational institutions. The minority group, like in order to preserve their languages, their culture, in order to conserve it, they brought it as right to conserve them. The culture, every state has its own different culture. The distinctiveness of India is a land of diversity, where we have diverse cultures staying in harmony. So every state has its own way of festival celebrations, its own way of dressing, its own way of having the marriage customs, marriage traditions. So all these make India a unique country. In order to preserve this beauty of our country, the framers of the Constitution has brought the cultural and the educational rights in the list of the fundamental rights. Now, we are going to discuss about the heart or the soul of the fundamental rights, as it is rightly mentioned by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Before going into the details of the right, we have a question: how to secure our rights? Our right to equality, our right to freedom, our right against exploitation, cultural and the educational rights. All these rights have to be enforced by something. Whom we have to approach if our rights are being violated? Who will take care of our rights? Who is the guardian authority for us? Who guards our rights? We have our military standing 24/7, 365 days at the border of India to safeguard India. In the similar way, who guards our fundamental rights? No government, no other private individuals, no organization, no body can put pressure or hammer the fundamental rights. How can this happen? Let us see now. The framers of the Constitution has brought this right as a right to constitutional remedies. This right upholds all the other 5 rights. If the 5 rights are violated, you can approach to the Supreme Court, the highest court in the country, against even the union government, or to the state high court in which state you reside. If you feel that the government itself is curbing your rights, you can file a petition against the state government and bring it to the notice of the court that your rights are being infringed. This infringement will definitely be questioned, and the law will be forcing the government to remove any restrictions which are being imposed against the individual's rights. This authority is being given to the state high courts or the Supreme Court, the apex court, to guarantee the fundamental rights. The Supreme Court acts as the custodian of the fundamental rights. It has the whole and sole authority to protect and to ensure that the fundamental rights are implemented effectively in our country. If any actions of the government or any actions of the states, authoritative bodies, or any corporation bodies, any NGO organizations violate the fundamental rights, definitely the court can stop them. How can a court stop them? Court can issue certain writs. Writ is a legal notice issued to protect the fundamental rights. On different situations, the courts can issue different writs. Let us see in detail one by one. Habeas corpus is the first writ, then we have mandamus, then we have prohibition, then we have certiorari, then we have quo warranto. These 5 are the famous writs which are issued by the Indian Supreme Court at various instances to protect the Indian citizens' fundamental rights. Now, habeas corpus is issued when there is any unlawful detention. As I mentioned earlier, you have the right to freedom to consult a lawyer, and you should be informed for the reason for what you are being put behind the bars, for what you are being arrested. And within 24 hours of time, you have to be submitted to the nearest magistrate. If these are not happening, the court will issue habeas corpus order and let the citizen free, and would like to know the reason from the respective authorities for what reason he has been imprisoned and why he has not been brought to the court. What has stopped them from coming to the court? So, in order to protect the rights of the citizens, these habeas corpus plays a very important and a major role. Why this kind of writs are important for us? For example, if any individual, if a police have a doubt that this individual may have done something wrong, you should be informed, we are having a suspect, we are suspecting you, so we are taking you, and at the same time they have to produce him in the nearest court and get the legal permission for that. Without this, they cannot lift up anyone whomever they want and make the people to get terrified with the actions of the police department. That is the reason why these writs save a civilian from getting submerged or suppressed by the authorities. Next, mandamus. Mandamus is given to get the legal protection. If any of your legal rights are being violated, then definitely you can approach the court, issues an order to, or it's a awakening call for the authorities to respond. Why will a court issue an order for the concerned authorities to wake up? It's like very simple. For example, if you applied for a license, you have all the required things to possess a license, but still the authorities are not giving license for you, then the court will issue mandamus so that your license will be issued for which you are legally eligible. That writ is called mandamus. Then third one is prohibition. This is prohibiting the subordinate courts or the lower courts to not to cross towards their boundaries. The High Court or the Supreme Court issues this kind of prohibit orders when they are moving aside from the matters for which they are not at all interested or given the authorities to respond. Fourth one, certiorari or cert, in short it is known as cert. Certiorari is uniformity. In order to maintain the uniformity in the orders of the court, like whatever is decided by the Supreme Court, that is the final one. That is the final word. It has to be the guidelines for the other courts for what they follow. So, in order to maintain that uniformity in the suit, in the cases and everything, they issue these kind of orders. Last but not the least, it is quo warranto, which literally means by what warrant you are holding this public position. It is generally related with the public positions. If anyone is illegally coming to the power and exercising his powers, if he knows that he is having illegal powers, then the court issues quo warranto notice, and then this person will be removed from power or the position for what he is commanding now. Now, other than these writs, the courts always respond if there is any injustice that is happening by the laws of the courts, by the laws of the government which is framing any new laws, which has brought certain new laws into existence, which has brought certain acts, certain commands, whichever the government brings are hurting the people, or any actions, any violence or any violation of the basic rights, everything can be reported to the High Court or the Supreme Court. Anybody can file a petition under the public interest litigation known as PIL. PIL stands for public interest litigation. Public interest litigation. These three words are taken and forming pill. These pills can be filed by anyone. It is not necessarily that you have to belong to the members of the family or you have to be associated with the group where the injustice has been happened. You as an individual, as a member of the country, can file a bill. It is not necessary that you need to file everything or the papers or everything. Even if you write a note in a postcard and send it to the judge, if the judge feels that it is really at the interest of the public, he also can take the necessary action. When this kind of actions are taken by postcard or by watching some news or by observing some incidents, this is called suo motu. On its own, when the court take decisions, that is called suo motu, take up of the cases. Like this, the courts, through the right to constitutional remedies, safeguards the fundamental rights and ensures that no one violates them. If anyone violates them or if any government tries to violate them, the government will be forced to enforce the fundamental rights through various writs. Now, we are till now discussing about the fundamental rights, right to equality, all the rights, 6 rights, the 5 major rights which are guarded by the basic soul or the heart of the fundamental rights. Now, moving on to understand, is the scope of the rights expanding? Yes. The scope of the rights is expanding. How is the scope of the rights getting expanded? We did not increase the number of the fundamental rights. Rather than that, we have cut short the right to property from the list of the fundamental rights to the legal rights. Now, how are the fundamental rights scope expanding? The answer is quite simple, as easy as it is. Freedom of press. When we have discussed about the rights, equality, freedom, or like the religious freedom, cultural and the social rights, educational rights, or protection against exploitations, or any other rights, we never discussed about the press. But in the right to freedom itself, we have the freedom to express your opinion, put pamphlets and preach. So through that we got the freedom of press. This freedom of press is actually dictated by the judgments given by the Supreme Court, which added expanding to the fundamental rights, which are actually imbibed in the fundamental rights and which were brought out by the judgments given by the Supreme Court. So the freedom of press is an adding to the fundamental rights. Recently, in the past decade, the Union government has passed certain new 2 rights, like right to information, known as RTI Act. According to the RTI Act, you have the right to access the information from the public offices, the government offices. You as a citizen, you have 100% right to know what is actually happening, and you can determine the pending. Why is it pending? For example, you applied for an interview, you did not get the reason whether you are selected or not and for what. So in order to find out the delay, you can apply through the RTI Act. Your result is in pending, you can apply. Your passport is not been approved, but all the formalities are done, you can apply if it crosses to a certain fixed limitation or timeline. So for all these things, the Right to Information Act provides you or entitles you to know what is the reason that has stopped the work or the reason for the delay, whatever that is happening, not only concerned with you. You can apply on any matter which you feel you are interested to know from the government, except you are asking about the defense secrets which may harm when it falls into the unknown people or into the any enemies of the country. Other than this information, you can access to any information, whatever you need, you are interested, you are connected if you want to do, and if you want to know something about the country's policies or the government agenda. Next, the third one is right to education. Providing education has become a basic right in our country from 2009, that is RTE Act, Right to Education Act. Using this act, the government has entitled and made it compulsory that the children who are aged from 6 to 14 years of age are eligible to get free and compulsory education. No school can deny admission to this age group children. And if the government does not have the schools, it has to pay the fees for the private schools and procure that seats for the people and made it compulsory through them. Like this, the government has ensured that education is must and compulsory and mandatory for all the children aged from 6 to 14 years of age. Now, in the fundamental rights, we never discussed about the education as a basic right. We never discussed about the freedom of press as a right which cannot be violated. We never discussed about the information about the government working, government offices, government policies can be asked by any citizen. So this is how the scope of the fundamental rights start to get expanded as the years are passing. People are learning and understanding democracy far better than the earlier years. Now they are able to question the policies of the government, the working of the government, the instances bring us to light. When certain injustice is done, everybody in the country responds. We have news hour debates happening on the injustice which happened at any corner of the country. Through the news channels, you get the issues to light, and that makes the government necessary to respond for them, because protecting every citizen and every individual is a basic responsibility of the country. And moving on to the other rights which got added under the umbrella of the fundamental rights. The right to food. The right to food is also passed by the Union government in 2009-10 years in the second term of UPA government, where the people who are coming under the below poverty line are entitled to get the sufficient amount of grains at very less cost, at their affordable levels of cost. Grain, wheat, whatever they need as basic supplements for them. So right to food has also become a compulsory right in our country. Every person who comes under the category of the below poverty line has been entitled to go and purchase in the public stores, where the government calls them as ration dealer shops. Go there, get them, submit your identity that you belong to a below poverty line, and you can claim certain amount of grains at very less cost, which ensures that you do not sleep in a hunger state. Next, right to vote. We never discussed about the right to vote, where a country, when it is truly democratic, we should have elections. In order to contest in the elections or in order to participate in the elections, we should have right to vote. So right to vote is an important constitutional right. So everyone is entitled to get the right to vote. If any individual is denied that right to vote, he can question the authorities through using the Right to Information Act. He can bring this to light by freedom of press. He can bring it into the news channels. He can bring it to the notice of the government and ensure that he is given right to vote. He can also get the mandamus, the legal warrant which has been issued. So whatever it is, the scope of the fundamental rights starts go on expanding as the ages are taking turns. The other than this, we also have some international covenants which are also adding on to the fundamental rights, like working conditions. The workers are given the time restriction of to work 8 hours, provided good hygienic conditions. Health has to be taken care by the company for which they work for the labor. sufficient intervals have to be provided for them, and there has to be proper taken care of their families also. These international covenants are binding on the countries and adding on the fundamental rights. Now, in 1994, the country like South Africa, who attained its freedom, drafted a new constitution where some more rights have got in the list of the fundamental rights. What are they? Right to privacy, right to environment, right to housing, right to health. The right to privacy, right to environment, right to housing and right to health are the list of the fundamental rights according to the Constitution of South Africa. Now, what is this right to privacy? There is a restriction that we should not enter into the house of a civilian and check the mobile phones, laptops or the personal information, which is completely the private affair of an individual, without the proper permission or without any legal reason. You are not entitled to go inside and check anyone's house without a strong valid point, even the government of South Africa. Next, right to environment. As a citizen of South Africa, he is having the right to have proper environment which is pollution free for him to grow healthily. Next, the third right to housing. As a citizen of the country, he has a right to claim a place for his living, a place to build his house. Nice, right? Next, right to health. As a citizen of the country, he has a right to have or to lead a healthy life. We generally do not have these fundamental rights in the list of our Indian fundamental rights. Right to privacy, we don't have. Environment, we only spoil the environment. Housing, we fight and we find it very difficult for a poor man to build a house in his lifetime also. Health, there are 23 million children who are malnutritioned in our country as per the statistics of 2012. So, there is no proper health care taken. We also now want all these rights, right to privacy, right to environment, right to housing and right to health should be added, and the scope of the fundamental rights should be further more expanding by addition of these fundamental rights also in our Indian fundamental rights. Yes or no? Yes, they have to be added. In this chapter, we have discussed what is a need to have fundamental rights, what are fundamental rights, what are Indian fundamental rights, how are the Indian fundamental rights guaranteed and safeguarded, and finally, how the scope of the fundamental rights is been expanding in the 21st century.